Kowalsky here, and welcome back to the weekly special. That's the World Chess Championships. You already know, I'm not gonna repeat myself. Now, we have Steinitz against Zukertort, the first one. That's 1872, London again, and it's their first one. It's not their official 1886 match just yet. I wanted to include this because you know, it's just a pretty important match because they're gonna have a rivalry later. But we're gonna talk about that when the time is right. And you know, we have one more game that we have to, sorry, one or two more matches that we have to cover until we get to that official title, and then all the titles start to become official. But again, we have some more matches to cover until we get there. But without further ado, Zukertort, obviously really strong grandmaster, not necessarily grandmaster, but like chess master, and he played, but he couldn't really beat Steinitz because Steinitz was on a different level back then, but he definitely was in like the top 3 range at that time. So this game they played, I mean, actually Steinitz just crushed Zukertort, and he beat him 7-1 with draws not counting. And I'm actually gonna show you a game that Zukertort won because it's statistically more impressive that Zukertort wins a game than that Steinitz wins. So obviously. So now Steinitz plays with the white pieces, and he opens up with e4 as he usually does. E5, the result is anyway spoiled, but the game is very interesting, right? E takes f4, knight f3, g5. And this game also happens in round 8 of their match. They played only 12, and up until this point, like, Steinitz was almost about to win. Like, he had, I think, either 4 or 5 wins. I cannot actually remember right, but he was on the verge of winning the match because it was first 7, and they played this you know, very sharp line in the King's Gambit. Now knight g5 is usually considered by today's standards not the best move. Knight e5 has been previously played here, and you know, move like knight f6 has been tried. Knight e5, the idea is to take the pawn back on g4, but now with knight f6 you take the pawn on e4, but then you get d3, and then okay, knight g3, and the variation continues here. There's even a knight sacrifice that the white can imply, and here you know, it's just a very wild variation where black just ends up in this position. This has actually been played at top level before, and you know, funnily enough, black is the only one that scored wins, and there were 2 draws and the win for black. So you know, the material is actually +1 for black. There are many insane lines in the King's Gambit. I'm not gonna cover them, but I just wanted to show you this very quickly here. But instead we have knight g5 and now h6, and we have this knight sack and this whole line with d5, and now you know, the pawn cannot be taken, so the king is actually relatively safe. But this move queen f6 was definitely dubious. Like, there are better moves, even just developing the bishop, because you might say, well, e5, yeah, but then you can deliver a check, and then if c3 you can take the bishop now. So you know, now you don't really want to take the bishop because you lose this pawn and you're just dead in this position. But okay, we have queen f6, and this follows a game played in 1995 between 2 masters. And now we have queen g6, h5, and now queen f5, and now actually white is pretty okay. f3, and here knight b to d2, just knight e7. And here maybe if white would have just you know, developed normally like some moves before here, instead of castles knight c3, maybe he would have been fine. But after castles and f3, again, he's gonna sack a piece soon, and you're gonna see that. And you know, he should have sacked the piece here. That's what I wanted to arrive. at, because he's gonna sag the piece here anyways. So why did black not take the knight now and just be up 2 pieces? Well, because rook takes, and now it's a little bit shaky with the queen's positioning. You could play queen g4, for example, not g5 because that's taken, but then you're gonna get queen e1, and this is coming, and you don't really have a square for the king. And if you try a move like, let's say, knight f5 to prevent a rook to g3, well, you can just lose your knight because rook g3 is happening anyways. And now, I mean, after this trade, let's just say that black doesn't have sufficient compensation anymore like he had in the other variation, because now the queen is out already, and we can see black's king and pieces just being all over the place. So instead we have knight takes on f3, and knight b to c6, just simply developing, because this knight doesn't really pose any threats. We have now attacking the pawn, but Zukertort doesn't really care. And now he just finds a very nice sacrifice of his own. He takes with the g knight and d5, now bishop to c5, king h1, and now knight takes on e5. Here, you know, black has the initiative. I mean, g3 is threatened, and so we have rook f1, but g3 can actually not be played yet because the queen would be hanging, but in the future g3 is the idea to just win the game. But before that we have bishop to e6, just developing, bringing the rooks in the game. There's no rush. Bishop to f4, and now just rook to f8, rook h to f8. We have queen to e1, and now of course g3 is off limits because of you know, just the white piece is guarding the square. We have bishop back to d6, and now queen to g3. But here, you know, setting up this attack on the knight was definitely not beneficial at all, because Zukertort can just simply double up rooks, and by the time that white also arrives, black just has, I mean, you know, black can even play a move like b6, just defending the pawn, because black has just a lot of time, because you can never take because of the many trades and because of the mate threats, you can never take. So we have rook a to f7 now, even improving the position further, c4, and now simply just going back with the king to e7, and now the king is even safer, and now Zukertort is ready to go bishop back to b1, but rook takes f4, finally. Rook takes f4, rook takes f4, rook takes f4, and now just simply knight back to d7, and there's not really a way to save the rook. But okay, Steinitz knew that. Queen e3, bishop f4, queen f4. And in this position, basically black is only up a pawn, but that pawn proves to be enough after the queen trade. And this endgame is effectively unsavable for white. Why? Because he has this very passive knight and not the most active bishop in the world. So we have king d6, always you know, you always have to activate your king in endgames first, and now just simply king d4. The pawn is guarded, now there are no problems, and the knight cannot infiltrate in the position. Okay, we have king to f4, and now knight d3 check, and we have a trade, and now Zukertort even gets the bishop for the knight. We have knight to e3, and now just h5, guarding the pawn nicely, and g3. We have h5, and you know, Steinitz will have some attempts at you know, getting holdable position, obviously, but in the end Zukertort just defends very nicely here. A5 is a try, and now he forks the pawns, but it's just all over here. Yeah, no, nothing more to be done, and here he resigns after this move, bishop d5. Why? Well, because any move that you do, let's say you go after the pawn, you just get king f3, and you can never promote your pawn in time, and this pawn is just going. So yeah, I'm gonna keep this one short because we're gonna come back with these two a little bit later. And you know, again, I just wanted to show you this this match that Zukertort nicely won. But again, you have to know that he just got crushed in the rest of the match. But okay, we'll see you in the next one. Kowalsky out.